270 books that I have yet to read, and this year I am determined to read every single book that I own. My physical TBR has absolutely gotten out of hand, and due to that I'm starting a TBR tackle series where I will be reading every book on my physical TBR, even if it kills me. This is episode 1, let's read. Let's find out what books I'm going to be reading for this video. Initially, for the first episode of this TBR takedown series, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to do a mood reading vlog, whether I try and get through some of my 25 books for 2025, whether I wanted you guys directly through Instagram, for example, to pick what I read. I feel like there are endless possibilities for ways that we can pick my TBR for these videos from my physical TBR, and I am so excited for the start of this series. With that being said, however, a few months ago I did upload a video where I went through every single book on my 200 plus physical TBR, and in that video I mentioned whether there were any books that you guys wanted to see me read in a reading vlog. So for today, for the first episode of TBR Takedown, I'm gonna go through the comments at random, and those are gonna be the books that I read in this video. As much as it is out of my control, I am so excited. Hopefully this will make me pick books up that I've had on my TBR for years. Since doing that video too, I've done a massive book unhaul, so hopefully we don't get a randomized comment of something that I have unhauled. If so, we'll just repick, of course, but I'm really excited to see what we're gonna read. I think I'm gonna pick 3 for this video, 3 comments. Okay, the video is in, let's press it and let's see what the first book we're gonna read is. I'm nervous. It is Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. Oh my god, okay. I actually really recently read Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. It was the second book that I've ever read from her. The first was One for My Enemy, which I actually rated 5 stars. Alone with You in the Ether I also really enjoyed. I rated that I think a 4.25, and I've been really keen to read some more from her. I actually have quite a few books from her on my physical TBR that I've yet to get to, especially the Atlas 6 trilogy, which I don't know if I'm ever actually going to get to. But Masters of Death I have heard really good things about. So okay, that is the first book that we're going to be reading. To be fair, I've really been in a fantasy mood, so that's kind of perfect. Picking the second book that we're going to be reading in this video, it is, oh my god, okay, wait. There's so much. I think you will really love The Safekeep. It's really your vibe with the atmosphere in the house and the rising tension between these 2 women. Of course, Pride and Prejudice is my favourite, so I highly recommend, and also I really want to read Sunburn, so I'd be interested to know what you think. Okay, so The Safekeep, Pride and Prejudice, and Sunburn. The Safekeep, funnily enough, I'm actually currently reading for my book club book this month, which I'm actually thoroughly enjoying too, so I'm really intrigued to see how I feel towards the end of that, but I'm literally reading it. Pride and Prejudice. I don't think I'm in the mood to read Pride and Prejudice at the minute, but also Sunburn. Out of Sunburn and Pride and Prejudice, I will probably go for Sunburn, solely because I wanted to save it for the summer. I do say that. It's extremely rainy today and it's extremely stormy all week, so it's kind of not the perfect vibe. I have been really excited to read Sunburn for a really long time. Oh my god, okay, so Masters of Death and Sunburn are the 2 books so far. Lastly, let's pick one more randomized comment, and that'll be the last book that I read in this video. Okay, we have option. Okay, so you have some of my favorite books ever on this list, so obviously I have to recommend those. Song of Achilles, Get Ready to Cry. I still cannot believe that I've never read the Song of Achilles. Hamnet, which is actually my next book club book, so I can't choose that. The Housekeeper and the Professor. This is hilarious because that actually was my old book club book. I loved that one. 7 Days in June, my favourite romance, and I'm picky. Okay. Dark Matter, one of the best I've read this year, and The Great Gatsby, iconic. That's so funny too because The Great Gatsby is my classic book club. Crazy how you've mentioned either my past book club books or my most recent ones. Out of these, I could either read The Song of Achilles, 7 Days in June, or Dark Matter. I don't know what I'm in the mood for. We have a fantasy and a literary fiction. So 7 Days in June, to be fair, I would love to read in June, so that kind of might be perfect. Okay, I'm not gonna overthink it too much. The 3 books that we are gonna read in this video are Masters of Death, Sunburn, and 7 Days in June. I'm so excited. Oh my god, I have so much hope that I'm gonna love these. I feel like this is a really strong TBR. Thank you guys, of course, for your comments on what books you would like to see me read. Let's start Masters of Death. Is the perspective from death? Because if so, I'm going to be so annoyed at myself that I didn't pick this up sooner, because I love books that have that perspective, especially if it's in a fantasy. First chapter literally starts with, "Hello children, it's time for death. Oh, you didn't think I spoke? I do." Are you kidding? The narrative I'm already in love with, because as a reader it feels like we are a character. He just said, "Are we in agreement? This is not my story, this is a story, and a worthy one, but it doesn't belong to me." As you would have seen, I have now started Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. I'm about 61 pages through, and I'm not gonna lie, when I read the first few pages I was like, okay, this is gonna be so good. I'm in the mood for a fantasy read. Like, there's a perspective from death, which I always love, especially in a fantasy read. However, now I'm just like, I feel like I'm gonna go into a slump. Started this physically and then I picked up on the audiobook, and I don't know what it was about the audiobook, but it's completely like, right now if I read this book, babe, I think I'm gonna fall into like a 2-month book slump. I literally can't even pinpoint exactly what it was, other than in the audiobook it sounded like, I don't know who the narrator is, but it just sounded like they were putting on on a fake American accent. Naturally, that just meant that every single time I listened to the audiobook, I couldn't really take it seriously, but in the same breath, I tried to then read it physically and it just was not clicking for me at the minute, which makes me so sad because, like I said, the first couple of pages, I was so excited. Obviously, I don't want to fall into a reading slump. I really want to try and read as many books as possible from my physical TBR that I can. One in this video, but simultaneously this month in general. Unfortunately, I am quite fearful that if I do force myself to read this, I might fall into a reading slump. So I'm gonna soft DNF it for now. I definitely would want to return to it at some point, maybe when I'm more in the mood. But with that being said, I don't want to just read 2 books in this video, so I think we're gonna pick another randomized comment from my YouTube video. Let's just press pick a winner, and that is the book that we're gonna be reading. It is. Stop, it's actually my mum's comment. She put so many beautiful covers. Enjoy. I love the video. Thank you so much, mum. Obviously love you so much. We're gonna pick again. Picking again. The book is You Have to Read 7 Days in June. Well, okay, hopefully 3rd or 4th time. I've literally lost count of how many times we've picked it. Lucky this will be the book that I read in replacement. Hopefully that has focused. It says Boulder and the Eyes Are the Best Part, a must read. Okay, part of me is leaning towards Boulder solely because 1, it's so short, but 2, I think I've had it on my TBR. I want to say it was published in like 2022 maybe, and I literally have the proof copy, so it's been on my TBR for years. I also feel like it's one that I would absolutely adore and I can read so quick, so maybe that one could be fun. And then The Eyes Are the Best Part is a horror that I've been wanting to read for a really long time also, so that could also be fun. But I think let's go for Boulder because I feel like I'm going to be able to read it really quick, and I feel like I'm going to fall in love with it. It is definitely a TBR veteran at this point, which is ridiculous because it is so incredibly short. So thank you so much for your recommendation. In replacement of Masters of Death, we are going to be reading Boulder. I have now started Boulder, and because this is only 100 pages long, I needed to give you an update because I'm currently 50 pages in. I'm halfway through and I feel like there's a chance that I could finish this today. If not, I'm definitely going to finish it tomorrow morning, so I wanted to make sure that I was telling you some of my thoughts. Initially, off of the bat, the writing style is phenomenal. Whenever I have a book that's been on my TBR for a few years and I put it off, especially one that is so short and I've seen such incredible reviews, I get so annoyed when I then love it and I'm like, why did I put it off for so long? I have underlined so much of this. I think tomorrow when I give you some of my final thoughts, if I do finish it, I will tell you and show you some of the underlines, but it's so good. The writing style, I literally cannot get over it. In terms of the plot, we are essentially following this woman who works on a boat, and she essentially becomes infatuated with this woman who works on the shore. Because she works on the boat and the woman works on the shore, obviously they have periods of time where they don't see one another, and it is so steeped in yearning. I suppose the desire of just being wanted to and exploring your sexuality and owning your sexuality, and I just think it's so brilliant, and I'm loving these characters so much. They are so unique and so interesting. They have such different attitudes to one another, but simultaneously they are quite similar in so many ways, and obviously like this is so incredibly short and I feel so compelled towards them, and all I want to do is keep on reading. I think for me in this book, definitely the writing style is the #1 thing carrying it forward. I am already so excited to read more from this author because genuinely, when I tell you every single page has underlinings, like every single page has a quote that I've utterly fallen in love with, and I'm really loving the plot, and I'm just really intrigued to see where it's going to carry on going. So I'm going to read some more of this tonight. If I don't finish it tonight, I will finish it tomorrow, and of course then I will come on and give you my thoughts, but for now I'm going to read some more of this and I will speak to you tomorrow. Good morning guys. Last night I went to sleep with about 20 pages left of Boulder, which I finished this morning, and I loved this so much. It was absolutely so brilliant despite the fact it is literally over 100 pages long. I would 100% recommend it. I think it's one of those literary novellas and one of those really short literary stories that is so full of melancholy and is packed full of queer desire and a lot of exploration surrounding that. Definitely more of a character driven story, I think, especially in terms of motherhood and what happens when motherhood enters an equation of a relationship and or a partnership, and it was so heartfelt but equally so heartbreaking. I just think the writing style was utterly just so phenomenal. There were so many quotes in this, like I said yesterday, that I underlined and I fell in love with. To give you an idea of what the writing style is like, I'll read you a couple of quotes that I really loved for context. This one, the protagonist is talking about blood. She says, "It creeps around the body like a shrewd domestic who has access to every room and knows everything there is to know about you, and who talks under pressure. The body is too basic, too weak, it can't be trusted. Only the mind can console us for its disloyalty. The only flag it flies is that of freedom, made of the bones of truth and the bones of lies. A cross, white against black, blood respects nothing." Are you like, the writing style is phenomenal. Another one that I really adored, this author very clearly loves the motif of bodies, which is actually a conversation that I was having with my patrons on a recent live stream that we did. That was so interesting, where certain authors have motifs, whether or not they kind of recognize the fact that they do and that they write continuous patterns, and I just found it's something I just find so interesting. We were talking about if any of them were to write a book, and or even if they do write a book, what would their motifs be, what are my motifs, and I think it's clear that this author loves the motif of the body, because another one that I really adored was, time has set its sights on us and slowly worn us down, sharpening its teeth on our bodies. I don't know what we are anymore. The strength of my body has been reduced to my body alone. I can't seem to see it in the things I say or do or need anymore. It's just so good. I ended up rating it 4 stars, which I am incredibly happy with. I just cannot believe that this was on my TBR for so long, and I'm very happy that I now finally ticked it off. So thank you for your comment and for your recommendation. Hi guys, I have now started 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, and I'm 18% of the way through, which is on page 58. I have actually been reading it on my Kindle. Obviously this book is on my physical TBR, but with this series I am going to definitely be allowing myself to read the books on my Kindle or through the audiobook if I would want to. I did have 7 Days in June on my Kindle, but I feel like I am going to flick between the physical copy and my Kindle. But I'm loving this so much currently. I actually started reading it, I want to say June last year, but because I had such high expectations for it, and I feel like I am absolutely going to love it. At the time of reading it then, I really wasn't in the mood for it, and I didn't want it in any way, shape or form to kind of taint my reading experience, so I am so happy that now I definitely am in the mood for it. This book is so hilarious already. It's so bingeable. The writing style is so accessible but equally so humorous and so clever. Normally when it comes to contemporary fiction for me or romances, I don't mind too much, to an extent, pop culture references, but the pop culture references in this, despite being quite plentiful, done in a way that again is so humorous and so clever and just perfectly works with the story. I'm so excited to see how this carries on going. I'm loving these characters so much. Obviously this is a romance, but I feel like it also discusses quite heavier topics. I know there is chronic illness representation in this, which is another reason why I was so excited to read it, and I've had high expectations for it. I've heard the chronic illness representation is phenomenal, and so far from what I have seen, only like 57 pages in, it definitely is. One thing I also absolutely adore when it comes to romances or contemporary fiction is when we're discussing writing, or the protagonists are writers, and both of them in this are writers. They are definitely two very different writers. Eva is a romance writer for very steamy, sexy reads, and then Shane is like a Pulitzer Prize winning author. So they're very different, but I feel like the way that that's going to come together, and maybe they're going to help each other in the writing process, I'm very interested to see how it goes. I'm just really enjoying this currently. I feel like there's definitely potential for it to be a high 4.5 or even maybe a 5-star. I really hope that we can get a 5-star in this video. That would be a great way to kick off the series, because it is so bingeable too. I do have quite a bit I need to do today, especially to do with work and also moving bits. Other than that, because it is so rainy and quite stormy and really cozy outside, I'd love to see how much I can get rid of this today, and yeah, I will give you an update once I have some more thoughts. Now on page 223 of 7 Days in June, and I am loving this so much. I definitely was going into this knowing that I was most likely going to like it, but in the same breath I was quite nervous because of the anticipation that I had to love it, and it's meeting every expectation, I'm not gonna lie. In my last clip I don't even think I told you what the book was about, but we are essentially following Eva and Shane, who once met each other 15 years ago. They spent a week together, kind of madly in love. They were absolutely infatuated together, but they were both going through some very heavy things. I will definitely say that this book definitely comes with trigger warnings that I would recommend looking up. They spent a week together and they were completely obsessed with one another, and then one day something happens and they don't see each other again until randomly at some point 15 years later. I think it's a story that is full of so much heartache, but it is equally so heartfelt. Eva at this time in the novel, 15 years later, is now a mother. I really think that the way this mother and daughter relationship shines through the pages is just so beautiful, and I also find the daughter so hilarious. I love when family dynamics are added into a romance or more like a literary love story. I think it adds so much to the plot. I adore Eva and Shane's characters so much for so many different reasons. The way that they are both writers and the way they both talk about the craft of writing I really love, but simultaneously they really talk about all of the traumas and the mental illness and the addiction that they went through during that time in their life, and seeing their progression to now is really beautiful. I love the character arcs in this. In general, I'm just having the time of my life. I think it is such a beautiful story. I really don't have a lot left. I've been dipping in and out of the physical copy and my Kindle, and on my Kindle I think it's saying that I've got just under an hour and a half left, so I honestly just want to kind of just sit down now and try and binge read the end. This is definitely a case of another one where I knew I was going to love it, so I put it off for so long, and I cannot believe that it took me this long to get to it. I am so in love with it. I really love Tia Williams' last release, A Love Song for Ricky Wilde. I read that last year and I fell in love with it. That is like a 5-star romance for me. I had the time of my life, so it's no surprise to me that I am adoring this too. I honestly am just going to sit down right now, see how much I can read. I might finish it, and obviously I will give you an update once I am done. Good morning, guys. Last night I finished 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, and I loved this so much. This was so amazing in so many different ways. I feel like it had the perfect balance and the perfect blend of everything that you kind of want in a literary romance and a literary love story. The characters, 10 out of 10. The writing, 10 out of 10. The plot, 10 out of 10. Babe, I have fallen in love with Tia Williams. I already knew that I loved her writing style from the other book that I read last year, but oh my god, this one was so good. Obviously, I've already given you so many reasons as to why I absolutely adored it. The ending, however, nearly made me shed a tear. I think it is such an accurate and perfect representation of, I suppose, adult love, and sometimes unfortunately how there are certain things and certain obstacles that require you not to kind of be in a situation with somebody that you might really want or desire. I just think that the way it was written was so phenomenal and so accurate in so many ways. I mean, these characters were so flawed in all of their flaws, and the way that they discussed them and owned them and wanted to embrace change, it was so beautiful. I loved this so much. I ended up rating it 4.5 stars. I would highly recommend this. I can completely see why so many people adore it so much. I will be waiting eagerly for a new Tia Williams book. All of her romances that I've read so far I have loved. This one was absolutely no different. I would definitely recommend it. Thank you so much for making me read this book finally, because like I said at the beginning, it was on my TBR for a long time. I was very nervous about it. I'm very happy to have finally ticked this one off, even though I'm quite sad that now I've read it and I can't be excited about it anymore. But then this morning after that, I picked up the last book for this video, which is Sunburn by Chloe Michelle Howard. Another book that I've had on my TBR for so long. I really was so keen to read it last year. I never got around to it because I knew it was one that I wanted to read in the summer. I say that it is the most gloomy, stormy, cloudy week ever for me to be reading this, but I did start it this morning. I'm now on chapter 4, which is page 43, and I am already adoring this. The writing style so far is so interesting. I feel like this book is going to rip my heart out. I don't know what to expect. All I really know going into it is that it's Irish literature, and I know it discusses sapphic love and queerness and girlhood, I believe. We are set in the early 1990s in the Irish village of Crossmore, and 15-year-old Lucy is our protagonist, and she feels very out of place. She has this friendship with a group of girls from her school, but she's increasingly becoming infatuated with one of them, and I suppose it's going to explore her sexuality, feeling out of place as a teenage girl in general and what that might come with. I feel like this, like I said, I feel like it's going to rip my heart out. I really do not know what to expect, but the writing style I'm enjoying so much already, so I have very high hopes. I know so many people have also absolutely adored this. I know that so many of you guys have adored this, so I'm very excited to be finishing this video off with this one. I'm hoping to read quite a bit of it today. I might dip in and out of the audiobook whilst I do a couple of errands, so yeah, I'll come on and give you guys another update once I have some more thoughts. I have not been able to put down Sunburn. I don't know if it's because of the writing style or the fact that it is so fast paced. I am just in love with this book. I have been listening to the audiobook whilst also reading the physical copy here and there, and this is just so phenomenal for all of the reasons that I mentioned at the beginning when I was first starting it. This is steeped in girlhood, in exploring your sexuality. It very much feels like what it felt like to be a teenager in all of its ugliness and joys. Being in a friendship group of girls as a teenager, kind of what comes with that and the dramas of that, in trying to impress boys, questioning if you even want to be impressing boys. It's so heartfelt in so many ways, but in the same breath, our protagonist, and this has the setting of a really conservative town in Ireland. Everyone for the most part is religious and extremely conservative, which obviously makes life for our protagonist and her exploring herself and her sexuality so difficult and so complex. It's a coming of age story that is just so brilliant and full of so much heart. I think I'm about 50% of the way through. I have been listening to the audiobook this morning. I want to carry on listening to the audiobook. I'm kind of feeling like doing a little bit of colouring. I'm just loving this so much. It's full of so much heart. I love the backdrop of the summer, even though, like I said, it has been so incredibly rainy. It's so perfect for summer. I would highly recommend it for that. I've really been craving a literary fiction recently, especially a more coming of age vibe, and this is literally scratching that itch. I'm having the time of my life with it, honestly. I cannot believe how quick I'm reading it in comparison to how long it was sitting on my TBR, but I will come on and talk to you guys when I have another update. I have just finished Sunburn, and oh my god, I loved this so much. I know I said that in every single update, but this was so good and I would highly recommend it. By the end, I literally was just so obsessed with the audiobook that I kind of stopped reading it physically and dedicated myself to that. I think this was such a brilliant and perfect portrayal of what it feels like to be a girl and girlhood, but in the same breath. The way that this book talks about desire and yearning was actually phenomenal, and it had my jaw on the floor so much. The writing style TBR was phenomenal. I kind of expected that this was going to be brilliantly written. Much as I would say it wasn't really lyrical prose, it was beautiful and it was just so phenomenal, and I just loved it so much. Such a brilliant coming of age story, especially one that focuses on queer desire. I think that so many people would absolutely love this. I would highly recommend it for summer. It is so, oh my god, I feel like I'm gonna think about it for a while. That being said, in the end I did rate it 4 stars, solely because at times it felt slightly repetitive in the plot. However, that was entirely meant to be the case. I didn't really get any 5-star feelings or anything like that, but it is definitely a book that I loved so much and I would highly recommend. So yeah, that was Sunburn, and that was the last book for this video. And with that, I'm now going to round off the first episode of our TBR tackle. I am so excited for the rest of this series. I have so many fun ideas of what I can pick my TBR for each video, what can make me read my entire physical TBR. Obviously with this video we ticked off 3 books, however I will need to say that I did a couple of book unhauls since starting this vlog, and now my TBR has quite drastically gone down, which again I'm happy with. I'll pop on the screen what my physical TBR is currently sitting at, and yeah, I'm very excited for episode 2. I really hope that you enjoyed this first episode and that you look forward to the rest of the series. If you have any fun ideas of ways that I can pick TBRs in different videos, please let me know, or if you read any of the books that I also read in this, please let me know. Equally, how many books do you have on your physical TBR if you count them, because that might make me feel a little bit better, or it'll make myself feel worse, but I'm very nosy, so I would love to know. Or if you want to show you stayed until the very end of the video but you don't really know what to comment any orange emoji. And yeah, as always, if you are not yet subscribed and you did enjoy this video, it would mean the absolute world if you considered subscribing. I also have all of my links down in the description box where you can find my Instagram, my TikTok, my Goodreads, and so much more fun stuff. Thank you so much as always for watching and for spending some time with me today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I will see you again very, very soon with another video.